Do the Browns present any sort of threat for you? I mean, we've been all over the place with the Bills' defense, and they do have a running back in Quinshon Judkins who is a little bit dangerous. I'm not sure what else is. Harold Fannin is interesting. Can you see the Bills having a problem with Cleveland?
Yes, I can, but only because mainly because the Bills have their own problems on the road sometimes, and they sputter and turn the ball over and get off to slow starts, and that's been an issue. And if you do that against a team like the Browns with their defense, and they have a very good defense, you don't know what situation you're getting into. The Browns won at Green Bay this year. You know what I mean? Like, they're going to play a low-scoring game. They're going to want to do that. I don't think they pose problems themselves to the Bills. Like, offensively, man, their offensive line is just not blocking as well. It's not like nearly what it was a couple of years ago. Judkins is very good, but like he's not able to do much right now behind that line. You have a rookie quarterback in Shedeur Sanders. I have a lot of confidence in Sean McDermott and his defensive staff to come up with, whatever they have to kind of confuse him, put him in situations. So that's not the issue. I think the issue is just beating yourself. Turning the ball over and penalties and then special teams. That's how the Browns beat the Packers.
Yeah, I said earlier, I think one of the first conversations we had on the show today was, I think, beyond the Bills being really sloppy, I have a very hard time seeing the Browns really. I think the only thing that Sanders has going for him is he's not afraid to throw it deep. So I think he'll take his shots. And, the Bills have been year over year very good at taking that away from teams. I don't think this team is such a threat on the ground that you'd have to, avoid taking away the deep stuff. I would expect the Bills to be able to lean into that. So if they don't hit anything, I think as long as I just am not all-time sloppy, I feel pretty comfortable about this game.
Yeah, I think I read a stat today about Judkins' yards after contact. Here it is right here. 718 of his 885 rushing yards are after contact. That means he's just getting hit early. But he's so good at breaking tackles, which has been an issue this year for the Bills, right? He's a tackle breaker. He's strong. He has enough speed. He's an athlete. So I think that has to be something you have to keep in the back of your mind. The Bills have not been very good at stopping the run this year, obviously. So no doubt about that. And then there are moments and pockets where Shedeur looks really confident and capable. And he's made some really nice throws, maybe one a week or two a week against Tennessee. He had a few, and from a start of the game to the end of the game standpoint, it hasn't been that great, right? He's completed like less than 55% of his passes in, I think, all but one game so far. So as long as you don't give him the big play here or there, and you're in a game where those plays matter, I think you should be okay. But the Bills, and then not for nothing. I mean, we've gone to this time. Myles Garrett's on the other side, right? If you get in a situation where you are trailing a little bit and you got to play from behind, now you open up the door for Myles Garrett to really, wreck your game.
What they have done yesterday, we talked to Darryl Ryder from Cleveland, and he might have said, Bulldog, that they have the worst, in his opinion, receiver room in the NFL. There are different candidates for that, but okay, what they have done, either if they get lucky with Sanders, or I guess Dylan Gabriel, or next year's top rookie, or whoever they get, they are very young at the skill positions. And there is some talent. We've talked about Judkins. They also drafted Dylan Sampson, more of a pass-catching running back this year. He plays a little bit. Harold Fannin is a story. I mean, for tight ends, he's getting targets. He seems, from Bowling Green, he seems like a story. He's 21. And then you have receivers, whether it's Isaiah Bond, who kind of fell through the cracks in the draft process, or even Malachi Corley a little bit. I mean, these are not, most of these, maybe Fannin, but the others are not threatening options for the Browns in this game, I would say. But if they do, again, fall into the quarterback somehow, this guy or the next guy, people might sort of like open their eyes to, well, they've got this core of speed and skill position guys who are very young, if that happens.
I think that can be said about most teams, but I'll also say this. We've said the same thing about the Browns many times before.
Of course.
And it hasn't happened, right? And one of the reasons, our buddies from Channel 4, Josh Reed and Carl Jones, both grew up in Ohio, so they're intimate, knowing the Cleveland Browns. And we had this same discussion yesterday where you're talking about, like, I made the point, on top of your point you just made, Mike, it's very similar. I said, well, they did find the guy. His name is Baker Mayfield. I mean, the guy was the number 2 voter in AP Rookie of the Year his rookie season. He had a dip his second year, I think it was, and he was actually pretty good. but there was a lot of stuff surrounding him. They moved on from him.
He played hurt, and they held his performance against him, I think, which is absurd.
Right. So you're right, Mike. Like, if you find the quarterback, but I just think there's a lot more that goes into it than that. Like, the organization matters and how you treat the quarterback, how you develop the quarterback, or all these people. Now, for Baker's sake, he also wasn't the most mature individual, right? At the time, I think he's grown up a little bit, and I think that he's found more, stabilizing, he's been more stable as a football player, and maybe even as a person. And there's some ups and downs there. My point, though, is they've had a young roster with some talent for a while, and it felt like they found a quarterback. They couldn't make it work, and it just seems like it's a perpetual cycle over there.
Fair enough. I mean, one team you can't say this about is the Bills. Like, they're not young at these positions, but, the Bills are good, which is better than being just young and promising. To the Ken Dryden line from Miracle on Ice, right? It's one thing to be young and promising. It's quite another to be good. Keon Coleman is the only, for relative term, but he's the only young skill position player the Bills have. Everybody else is, a few years in at least. But, you'd rather be the Bills than the Browns, obviously.
I was on a very interesting radio spot I did today in Cleveland. I was on Daryl's station, the Fan in Cleveland, and I was on with their afternoon drive. And it was interesting because the focus and the questions to me weren't so much about the Bills' season. They asked a lot about McDermott and Bean, but it was a lot about also Stefanski from my point of view. And the question actually was asked to me two things. Number one, if the Bills moved on from Sean McDermott and the Browns moved on from Kevin Stefanski, how many Bills fans would want him? And the second question was who would win in a coach swap? And I thought those were interesting questions that were kind of odd, but that's okay. Well, and then they can ask whatever they want. But my answer to that was I've never heard one Bills fan tell me they want Kevin Stefanski.
Yeah, not yet. we had this with Daryl yesterday because I said to him how we'll get off the Browns here, of course, but
yeah.
I said to him how we get when there's a coach on the hot seat, somebody inevitably raises their hand and says, well, if we fired this guy, he'd get hired immediately by somebody else. And I think Stefanski is that. And maybe Daryl said that too.
He did say yes. He thought he'd get scooped up quickly.
Two-time coach of the year. I mean, he already has.
Do you think Sean McDermott wouldn't be that guy too?
No, I wouldn't say he wouldn't be. No, I wouldn't.
I look at it the other way. I don't know. I think Stefanski, yes, he's had some nice accolades, but that's really interesting you say that because I think the consistency in the way McDermott runs his program, I think there would be a team very much looking for something like that.
I didn't mean to compare them like you were saying your guys asked you to do.
Okay, yeah.
But, I mean, offense. So if Stefanski, if you have a quarterback and you need a coach, if you're the Giants or whoever, like the Raiders, you're going to draft one, Tennessee, one of these teams, I think he's maybe number one. Because you want to think he can come in. Not that the Browns have been all over the place at quarterback, but he's gotten them to the playoffs a couple times at least. We'll see what happens because it sounds like he's going to be out, right? Would you say that, Sal?
Who's that?
Stefanski.
Oh, Stefanski's going to be out.
Don't you think?
I guess. I don't know. I haven't really been dialed into that as much over there, but I guess so. I think that if I think about things they've talked about for sure, I wonder how much their entire organization, what kind of changes they want to make at the top.
Yeah, there might be a lot.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe everything gets swept out, except for Myles Garrett. Let's squeeze a thought in on him here, Sal, before we get to today's news and the injuries and everything with the Bills. Do you think, and we can get more into this tomorrow too, but special attention to Garrett? What do you think the Bills' plan will be there?
Well, first of all, it might also depend on they will pay special attention to him, but it might depend on the situation with Deion Dawkins. He's missed 2 days in a row with an illness, and let's just it's early in the week, so let's just assume Deion's going to be okay and play, and hope that's okay, and hope he's doing okay. Yeah, you have to pay special attention to him, but I think the best way to do that is maybe just by running the ball and doing what you do best. But when you go to a passing set, you have to be aware where he is. You have to, trust the guys to do their job, but chip him a little bit, have an extra blocker in for him, no doubt about it. I mean, he's great, and he might get his. You don't want him to get his to have the record against your team and the highlights and all that. But at the same time, I think you know that he can bring it on any play, and you're going to want to make sure you know exactly where he is.
Okay, injury news today. We've got a punter now on the injury report for some reason. What do you know, Sal?
Yeah, I mean, we've been dealing with these Wednesday to Thursday injury pop-ups, if you will, over the last few weeks, where somebody suddenly pops up on Thursday. And today we have 3 of them, guys. 3. Actually 5 if you count guys that went from full to limited because they were dealing with something and then they were limited today. So let's go through the 3 that were added today. Cam Lewis with a hamstring, Chase Lunt with a knee, a backup lineman, and punter Mitch Wishnowsky, right knee. And the reason why you say right knee is because if it's a kicker or a quarterback, you must list the actual foot or arm that he's dealing with because that's important, obviously.
Love that.
Yeah. So all 3 of those guys were not even on the report yesterday. They're listed as limited today. Does that mean something happened at practice today? Again, it's the question we ask every week. Not really sure, right? Exactly what the deal is there, but they were not on the injury report yesterday at all, without Sean McDermott saying it, and even afterwards. Now the guys that were on yesterday, but were full, but then downgraded to limited, Taron Johnson with a quad and Daquan Jones with a calf. Now, that could very well be because it was a walkthrough, and Sean McDermott's doing an estimation, and the team is doing an estimation. But once they get on the field, they may say, let's back off on the guy. You know what I mean? Like, we don't know exactly what went down today. I was out there and saw a little bit of practice, obviously, only so much we could watch. And the good news was that Christian Benford was back out there. He was practicing. He was officially listed as limited. And Terrell Bernard officially full today. That's the first time we've seen that in quite a while. And no Deion Dawkins, like I said. And once again, no Dalton Kincaid, second day in a row. He was out with his knee.
On Jones, the last time he hurt himself in pregame warm-ups, it was a popped quad, right? So it's maybe the same, or calf. Yeah, sorry.
Yep.
Yeah, so I don't know. Hopefully that's not a reoccurrence.
Correct.
But certainly could be.
That's right. And I would say this again. He was on. These guys were on yesterday's injury report. That's Daquan Jones and Taron Johnson as full participants. So they were already dealing with it or getting treatment in some capacity. So I actually look at that as almost an encouraging sign. They get to today and it's like, well, they were limited today. Maybe they just backed off on them. But we'll find out tomorrow. Sean McDermott will join me probably about 11:15 or so once again on the Extra Point Show.
All right. The state of the offensive line, we mentioned Dawkins already, and you already said it. Like, hopefully he's all right for Sunday. Spencer Brown's been beat up a little bit. How do you see things overall up front?
Yeah, I think they've played really well this year for the most part. But, Josh has taken some sacks. Obviously, that Houston game was not their best performance. There's been a couple other times here and there where you could say they weren't up to what they were last year. But I think when you take the whole body of work, I mean, they're blocking in the run game as well, and it's been pretty amazing. I think David Edwards has had a really excellent year at left guard. Deion talks about his communication and how elite he is. If you guys watched the game last week, you saw him very demonstratively pointing to somebody and pointing to his helmet, and he's making a lot of those calls right on the road, and he's really important for what the Bills want to do. So I think they've played well this year overall, and knock on wood, you hope that they stay pretty healthy other than the game against Pittsburgh when 2 tackles were out and then Spencer Brown missed the following week. That's pretty much been the case. I will say, though, even though he's not in the injury report, it feels like Connor McGovern's getting banged up every week. He's getting his elbow taped. He's, something's going on. He's looking bionic man out there. And I talked to Connor about that a couple weeks ago, and he just said basically, Sal, as long as 17's out there, I'm out there. It doesn't matter. So that's the mentality they take. They want to be there to protect their quarterback.
On Edwards, it only came up once, maybe twice on our show, but in the Bengals game, the touchdown run, the 40-yard Allen touchdown run, Edwards points out to Dawkins to take the guy on the inside and leave the outside guy to Josh. And I think Deion said after the game, if he didn't do that, that play maybe never happens.
100%. And that's when Deion after that game, I asked him specifically about that play. He said Dave's an elite communicator. I compare it to Bulldog. Maybe you would agree. I don't know. It's like a 2-on-1 in hockey where goalie takes goalie takes shooter and defenseman takes passer, right? Is that how it works, right? I think, or passer.
Try to take the pass away. The defenseman tries to and let the goalie deal with the shot. Yeah,
that's right. And I think that's basically what it is. You got to take this guy and let Josh handle the other guy. So Josh, the goalie in the situation, let him handle that guy. Josh has to be kind of his own picker-upper of the blitz, and he saw the guy coming and he could duck under him. And as long as you know that, as long as where the communication is coming from, so I think that's really important. Another thing we missed today, though, just so you know, guys, Mecole Hardman, 2 days in a row did practice. I'm guessing that's trending towards him being activated on Saturday, but it doesn't have to be. And remember, the Bills did activate Max Harrison and TJ Sanders the week that they were, put back on the IR to return for the 21 days. So we could see that this week.
If I'm in net, Bulldogs on D, I'm going to need you to take both, the shooter and the passer.
There you go.
No pressure.
I'll see what I can do.
Thank you, Sal. Talk to you.